We're now recording. This is a meeting of the 95 Lawrence Road Rental Housing Task Force. I'm going to remember to keep an eye out to let a few more participants in. But welcome everyone. I feel like we should all introduce ourselves since we have our wonderful new Assistant Town Administrator, Becky Slick, here with us today, who is now the town point person for this project. So I would ask, some of you may have met her, but I would ask everybody on the committee, our committee and the wastewater folks, to just do a quick introduction to say hello. And Kathleen, could you start?
Hello.
Kathleen has been on this committee as a select board member, and then when she left the select board as an at-large member. Jan?
My name's Jan Plowey. I'm on the committee from the school. I've been on the school committee 21 years, Rebecca, and I'm now retiring in a few more months.
Congratulations.
She'll be missed. Scott?
Scott Horsley. I am working as a consultant to the town, preparing a targeted watershed plan, which, as we'll get into, includes the 95 Lawrence project.
Jay?
Jay Horowitz from the Building Needs Assessment Committee. Good to meet you, Rebecca.
And Jim?
Jim Hood, yes, and Becky and I know each other now. We've had meetings together. And I am the chair of the Board of Water Commissioners.
Nice to see you again, Jim.
Let's see.
I know you know Gary.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Gary.
Kurt?
Hi, Rebecca. My name's Kurt Felix. I'm the chair of the Wastewater Committee. I also serve with Jim on the Board of Water Commissioners and a few other boards in town, but nice to meet you.
You too.
And Carl?
Hi, I'm Carl Sussman. I'm serving on the task force for the Gulf Fleet Seasonal Residents Association.
Okay. And we have a telephone on the line. Who is that?
Yeah, this is Katie Klein. Can you hear me?
Oh, Katie, hi. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't get the Zoom anyway, so I just figured this was the only way I could join. So hello, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm Katie Klein from KP Law. We've been working with the town on the RFP and the associated documents.
Okay, and Rebecca. Say hello,
Hi.
everybody.
So I'm really excited to be working with you guys. This seems like a really exciting project. I have read through the RFP and been working with Katie, and Katie and I actually worked together in my last job. I worked for the town of Dalton, so it's kind of nice to see a familiar face. But I look forward to working with all of you guys, and nice to meet you.
Yeah, I have to say, Becky has been so supportive of the project so far, so we're very lucky to have her helping us continue to move it forward. We're getting there.
Yeah,
too.
It's exciting.
Yeah. On the agenda today, under the RFP, we're looking at the potential revisions in the wastewater section, the LDA, and the ground lease. Katie, I know, I'm not sure what's happening with the wastewater section in the RFP. We do have two people involved in the wastewater committee here, Scott Horsley and Kurt. I don't know if you have any questions for them.
I don't, because I received that section this morning from you. I wasn't asked to be at this meeting until like 15 minutes ago, so I'm a little behind anyway. So I don't yet. I do think that there's some, I have looked at the language, and I was thinking that, am I correct that the proposer or developer of this project their main, or basically their sole contribution to the wastewater, would be the contribution of approximately $750,000. Is that correct?
In land for the facility placement.
Okay, so there, when it's described as a public-private partnership in the RFP, would we say that's an accurate characterization, or, I mean, because I'm trying to get away from that kind of language. And I was wondering if we could, I mean, I'm just trying to understand how it's going to work.
Katie, this is Scott Horsley. Kate, do you want me to, Kurt, or do you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
Hi, how are you? By the way, just for full openness, I'm John Witten's former partner who's works with your firm. I don't know if you've met John yet or not, but he's with KP.
Oh, of course,
now.
yes.
Yeah.
And I actually was aware of that. Yep.
Okay.
And we worked, I think, on other things, but
we may have. I recognize your name. So,
yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
the way this is planned is that the town is going to town meeting to appropriate money to apply for and hopefully get the groundwater discharge permit from Mass DEP, and then would also be paying for the construction of what we're calling phase 1 of the wastewater treatment plant. And I believe the way it's worded is that it would be a town-run facility, but that the developer would pay their fair share, which was calculated by an independent engineering firm, Bowler, as to what it would have been had the developer gone it alone with the IA system. And I think that's the number you're referring to. I think there's probably some also language in there about ongoing operation and maintenance as well, although I don't know those details. But that's essentially my understanding of the arrangement here. And the benefit of this is it's going to provide a water quality improvement to a very much impacted and needed area of town by doing this larger facility. So we're viewing this as kind of a win-win situation to develop affordable housing and restore water quality at the same time.
Right. Yep.
And then
I think Katie was raising when we were in a separate discussion about the RFP. Your vision is not that this is a joint venture, but rather that this is an amount to be paid by the developer for their fair share of the cost of construction, but there's no overlapping responsibility or ownership.
they're a customer.
Yes, exactly. I think that's,
yes, and that's exactly. I
the
assume this is Gary talking, right?
Yes,
and,
I'm sorry. Yes, it is. Okay.
No, that's fine. I recognize your voice. And so, yeah, because one of the reasons that, just going back a step, one of the reasons that we made some changes to the ground lease and to the land development agreement is MHP, who you've been working with, who the task force and I'm sorry, I can't recall. Anyway, who the town's been working with, suggested that there may be a problem because of the possibility that the town and the developer may be seen as too interdependent, and therefore it becomes a town project and then becomes a public project. And we don't want that to be the case, because that changes the nature of the project. So when I see words like joint ventureship or public-private partnership, that then I would tend to not gravitate to that kind of characterization of the any portion of the development, including the sewage disposal system.
Yeah, this is Kurt Felix. I think the relationship is as a typical. They would be a customer of a municipal wastewater treatment facility. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty clean. I think that the thing that I'm a little confused about is I think the town owns the land anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure.
Ground lease.
Yeah, so, so as far as a, you know, right of way or access to the location, I don't even think we need that in this instance. If the town owns the land, the town would be siting facilities. The developer would want to know what the, I think what the footprint's going to look like relative to its potential impact on the development itself. But that's described in the RFP anyway. So, you know, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like as long as that's the relationship, we should be pretty clean.
Yeah, just from a legal standpoint, what I mean, my understanding is this property is about 9 acres. About 6 acres is going to be subject to the ground lease, and a plan presumably, obviously, will be developed showing those 6 acres, and that will be the town will, lease this property to the developer, but the town will reserve certain
Right.
rights in that area. I mean, it wouldn't be like the developer wouldn't have to give an easement, you're correct, because the developer will never own the property.
Right.
But,
Katie, this is Kathleen. I just want to add that with regard to MHP, and the reason this came to you is because Laura Schufelt was very concerned about exactly the same thing you're stating now. Public and private partnership. It hinders the funding mechanism for development. And having you clean this up in this way, and now we're hearing, that how this is going to work makes great sense. But I also want to add that the developer is going to pony into the wastewater treatment system, in that we had already spec'd out an IA system for the 46 units of housing. And at that cost, the town will be asking the developer to at least put in that amount. They would have to put that amount in, in any other situation they were going to be developing. So I just wanted to say that much. Thank you.
No, thank you. No, that makes sense. And that, I think that's made clear in this section of the RFP on the sewage disposal system. I just think that we will probably want to get away from, some of the verbiage that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Right. Great. Well, that was really helpful. Thank you, Kurt and Scott and Katie, for all being here to work that through. Any other questions about that? Carl? You're muted, Carl.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
So if it's a municipal wastewater facility, doesn't that make it public?
That's public, yes. But
so what we're talking about is whether the subcontractors need to submit separate subbids.
Well, the sewage disposal system is definitely a public project. There's no question about that. And that will be subject to all the procurement and bidding laws and prevailing wage and all that. The question is whether or not the housing, the residents, the residences that will be built, will that be a public project?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, Gary?
Katie, the only other interlocking piece there is in the evaluation criteria. So if we have to change the language, make sure that we have the evaluation criteria that chews up against that.
Okay, so I know one of you must have the RFP in Word, but we're looking for that so that we can make some changes to that.
Right.
And thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, this is Elaine, and I think it's possibly done in a way that it's not a problem, but we definitely want you to take a look at that. Right. Okay.
The evaluation criteria.
Right, yes.
Yeah, no, that's no problem.
Okay. Okay, I think most of you were on when Kurt and Scott kind of mentioned the wastewater piece at town meeting, but maybe just another quick overview of what we'll be looking at on the warrant.
Sure. I'm just seeing, I was trying to see if I have it handy. I think I can pull it right up if you want to take a look at it. Can I? Let me see if I can. I don't know if I can share my screen. I'm going to try. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is the latest set of revisions that I believe the Board of Selectmen are going to approve on this article. And essentially it's to the town would appropriate a sum of 1.9 million. That would be for the its portion of the construction of the facility. And trying to navigate down, for some reason I can't navigate down in my own document here.
Kurt, this is not a borrowing article?
This particular piece of it is a borrowing article, and it would be a Prop 2.5 override.
Okay. Oh, okay, see, will be borrowed.
And in addition to that, let me try this. There we go. In addition to that, there will be an O&M component, which is the second piece, which would be the 52,746, which would be the town's portion of O&M for the facility. So that's kind of how the Board of Selectmen decided to break it up.
Kurt, they're borrowing in the current fiscal year or FY22, even though the funds may not be significantly used until a later date?
No, this is an authorization, so it wouldn't be time bound, Gary.
Okay.
There's no commitment to borrow the money until it would actually be required.
But this puts you in a stronger position with regard to any grant applications.
Exactly. Once it's authorized, it certainly does allow us to seek, for example, additional Mass Works funding or any of these other sources that would or could be available. We had a great meeting, as I think Scott alluded to earlier, with DEP. They're very, very excited about this. I think we're going to either be able to, and we also met with the director of the SRF program with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He was also interested in how this could be potentially part of either SRF or the Cape Cod Water Protection funds, which are Airbnb taxes. That particular facility provides a potential for 25% grant. So there's several sources here that we may be able to get some significant grant funding.
Great job, Kurt. Thank you so much. Well,
Sure.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you both for all your work on this.
Kurt, I have one question. It's Kathleen. I cut out early of the meeting last night. Is there any explanation why this has been broken down into 8 different articles? No, because it could hurt us. So I want to know what the reasoning was behind it.
You'd have to ask Mike or Ryan.
Okay.
I really have no idea. I'm
If
perplexed.
this is coming at the end of a warrant and it's Article 60 through 68, we could lose people. So
yeah, they've placed them, I think it's between 12 and 17 or 18. So they're very early in the warrant.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. It could easily have been put together, as a capital authorization and then
Absolutely. And it would have been a lot cleaner and neater. Thank you.
yeah. Each of these components that they've broken up constitutes some percentage of what we need to obtain for compliance with our nitrogen reduction targets. And it's kind of, it's anything that the town doesn't approve means that we have to make that up with something else, which is either going to be additional sewering or, Scott's worked so hard on this to try to come up with alternatives that save the town a huge amount of money.
Right.
Anything we don't, that we, as I said, that we can't get from this basic initial thrust is going to have to be made up somewhere else.
So
I got
my
a
next
question.
question is, if one of the 8 articles or 2 out of the 8 articles doesn't pass, what's that do to the whole package?
Well, there's a couple of ways to look at it. One is that we could always bring it back at a subsequent town meeting. I think the voters are smart. I think they're going to understand how this all fits together. My expectation is that, we have a bunch of smart voters in the town of Wellfleet. They're going to see this as all part of a plan. Not exactly sure why it's broken down, but obviously we need, all, if not almost all of these components to be able to move forward. And we'll make the case for obviously the urgency with regard to 95 Lawrence Road, with regard to septic systems that are currently being put in that'll have to be either replaced or something done to them at a later date if we don't do an enhanced IA program. And then the tide gates, the salt marsh restorations are all about, a dying salt marsh at Howes Pond if we don't do something about it. So I think there's pretty compelling reasons for the town to move forward on these things. And we'll just have to make those arguments at town meeting.
Okay.
I have a question about the meeting. Is that okay, Elaine?
Yeah, one more thing and then we'll move on. Yep. About town meeting?
Yeah, about the town meeting. Can't the voters, if it's presented a certain way, vote all these articles together?
The moderator could make a motion for unanimous consent and name a bunch of articles. Would the town agree to unanimous consent to vote these together? I'm going to guess that there's going to be an objection to that, no matter what, which would mean we'd have to deal with them separately. It just takes one person to object, and then we'd have to deal with it separately.
Okay,
it could be done, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, well, thank you both again, and we will be there in force and supporting you all the way. So,
well, thank you. I mean, we're thrilled. This is just an exciting partnership that we've developed here, and we're all in. Anything we can do is, just let us know.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yep.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so next on the agenda are the revisions to the LDA and the ground lease. I'm not quite sure how you want to do it. Most of it is kind of way above our our knowledge. I've come through it. I don't know if any of you have specific questions you wanted to bring up today. This was a result of KP and MHP were able to meet, and MHP was able to express their concerns, and KP has responded with these revisions to the 2 documents. I don't know how, I don't know if you'd like to sort of comb through this, or I know that we have Becky has scheduled a meeting tomorrow with KP, and I was wondering if you would, how you would feel if a small subcommittee of potentially myself and Gary and Carl participated in that discussion to really go over the changes that have been made. I'm happy to go through it right now, and anything people want to bring up, and then do it a little more in thoroughly tomorrow.
Elaine,
Yes.
Elaine, this is Katie. I don't know about this meeting tomorrow. What has Rebecca, has that been scheduled?
Yeah, I sent that. What is going on?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the 3 o'clock one. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm really questioning myself after losing the Zoom link today. I'm going, what is happening?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, the intention was for Elaine and Gary to, at least Elaine and Gary to be there
Mhm. Right.
at 3 o'clock. Yeah, sorry.
Right. And I mean, we had, you know, this was a last minute thing, as you said, for you to be here today. So I don't know how you would feel about, you know, taking maybe a quick spin through these things right now.
Yeah. Let me start by saying the documents that we worked with, you know, were the ground lease and the LDA. MHP had highlighted some sections that they thought could perhaps be, you know, maybe could be modified to get away from this concept of it being sort of the town involved in the project. So what we did was we went through those sections, and where we thought it was appropriate and in the town, and you know, not contrary to the town's interest, we made changes to the document. There were a few areas where we thought it was important that we not change it. I mean, in other words, it's important. I mean, it's not important, it's critical that the town have assurances that, you know, the development be, I mean, it doesn't have to, you know, have, I don't mean to joke about this, but we talked about it earlier, but, you know, if the pitch of the roof is such and such, and the town is dictating what the pitch of the roof needs to be, then it looks like the town is maintaining control. So I give that just as a silly example. So we were thinking we might change, you know, maybe some of the specificity in the design standards for one. But on the other hand, it's critical to the town that the project be built, that it be clean, that it be safe, that it be sound, that it be aesthetically pleasing and conform, you know, to some, you know, extent to what goes on in Wellfleet from a building perspective. And it's also critical to the town that there be adequate funding so that it doesn't, you know, they don't get halfway through the project and need to abandon it. It's also critical that the town be protected from, you know, liability issues. So MHP had suggested that we take out some insurance provisions, you know, where in other words, we think it's important that the town be an additional insured on the developer's insurance policy. So we may have changed those sections a little bit, but we didn't take them out. There were some sections that, I mean, there was one section that I think we all thought was sort of a wish, you know, best case scenario. It had to do with abandonment of the project. And so we said that if they, you know, if they haven't leased out a certain number of units, you know, if say fewer than 60% of the units were being leased out, that meant that, you know, the project was abandoned and that the town could take it over. If, you know, the town chose to. That's sort of like having a right of reverter. It's sort of like something like anyway, we didn't think we'd actually have that in the end anyway. We generally include it, but lenders don't accept that kind of thing anyway. So we took that out. Okay. And so what I'm saying is we certainly looked at what MHP suggested. They didn't make specific suggestions, but they, as I said, highlighted certain areas, and we addressed all of those areas in some fashion.
Right.
that's an overview.
That's an excellent overview. Thank you. I finally.
Yeah, Elaine, I just want to say, I read it 3 times,
Mhm.
went over it 3 times, and I felt that it should meet muster with Laura Schufelt. I felt that the sections were dealt with in a way that took less control out of the on the town side. But KP Law is the town's attorney, and it is their job as the town's attorney to make sure that we're indemnified and that we're not going to be liable for certain things. But and I thought they addressed that really well too.
Anybody else
The
have?
only thing I just wanted to, I'm not sure I understand all these issues, and I certainly didn't
Well, I think you're not the only
understand
one.
all
I mean, it's sort of a gray area.
Mhm.
So it's, you know,
I think from my point of view as a member of the task force, one of the things we want to be confident about is that this is not treated as a public project. At the same time, we did feel strongly about things like the design guidelines, so that there was, if MHP, which has a lot of experience with this, has a way through that thicket, it would be very helpful to make sure that, this, since they've been advising us on this all the way along, they have a chance to look at this draft too and comment.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We've had, we have two years of very hard work from, with MHP working through it, and it feels like, having them take one more look before we put this out the door would be a courtesy, as well as something that I think the committee would appreciate. Katie, I just wanted, it had taken me a while to understand that you were talking about those separate design guidelines that we have in our attachments as potentially problematic. If that's the case, I don't know if the committee has any qualms about taking it out completely. I just was surprised because, I think we were thinking that as just sort of a idealized picture of Wellfleet, that we weren't dictating anything, but.
Yeah, I'm sorry I focused on that because I understand it was sort of, in the past, there was a design book or booklet or something that gave some ideas of what is inherently Wellfleet and or the Cape. And I don't mean to focus unfairly on, the pitch of the roof. I just wanted to give an example of, so I think, yeah. I mean, and MHP actually didn't, find that problematic. At least they didn't relay that to us.
Right, right.
It's interesting that at one point we weren't going to have any design guidelines anyway. And then we decided to put them back in.
Okay.
So it is an interesting problem.
And Katie, I think the book that you're referring to is from the Cape Cod Commission, and
right.
It's kind of standard here now. But with regard to the pitch of the roof, any project that's built in the town of Wellfleet still has to meet building code, and it will be going before the ZBA.
Yes, yes, and I didn't, as I said, I don't mean to focus on one little thing. I just sort of threw it out as an example.
Okay.
I think it isn't necessarily any particular detail of whether it's this window or this roof, but Katie, is it the case that if we are too prescriptive in our design, then we exercise a control that would throw us into public procurement? Is that the nature of the issue?
That is the nature of the issue. And so one of the things you'll see is in the changes to the development agreement, I believe it was mostly in, you know, I mean, basically how this will work is the developer will submit a proposal, and hopefully that proposal will, you know, have some degree of detail in terms of what these, you know, buildings are going to look like, excuse me. And, but then what we provided for originally, and we do this all the time, so I don't want to make it sound, I mean, we've done this in many communities and it's never actually been a problem, but what we kind of eliminated was a sort of two processes going on at the same time. In other words, we know we're going to be the zoning board of appeals is going to, you know, be the board with the oversight over this project, but we also provided originally for the select board to approve, the details of the project, and then if there was a change made, you had to go back to the select board. And a lot of our towns really like that because the select board is, very involved and wants to stay involved. But what we've done is we've given the oversight primarily to the zoning board of appeals, and of course, their building codes and whatever. And we've eliminated the extent to which the select board would be involved in the approval of the design. So yes, to the extent the town is prescriptive and dictates outside of the context of the ZBA, that is, potentially problematic. And so we've, changed some of that, those requirements. Does that answer that, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we do want to be careful if our lovely design guidelines cause a problem. We'll, we should change whatever we need to, or take them out if that.
Yeah.
that
No, I think.
Yeah.
It's a tough balancing act because, there's a strong feeling in the community that this needs to fit in. And I'm concerned. I think having the guidelines is reassuring to people in the community that it's not going to be, stand out and be a problem.
Hello.
Hi. Everybody's thinking.
Here.
Yeah. So I mean, Rebecca has set up a meeting tomorrow with KP and had invited Gary and I to attend, to probably just ask about, just to go over every section to make sure we understand it. Are you comfortable with us doing that and reporting back? And also, I know that as a committee, we would love to have Laura have a chance to look at it too, and just to assure us, or to ask one or two more questions if there are any, if that would be acceptable.
Fine with me.
Yeah. I just had one comment. Couple sections in the ground lease as well as in the land development agreement, that the ones that speak to the percentage of the housing that would be at specific AMI levels. And I noticed that there was a discrepancy between the two, that in section 9.2 of the ground lease, it refers to the percentage of the housing up to 80% of AMI, whereas in the land development agreement, it refers to the percentage of housing up to 50% of the AMI. So I don't know if they're supposed to be that way or if
Yeah,
it's, yeah.
Where
And
is it?
similarly, it was
Yeah,
in section
I see 9.2.
9.2, and I believe it was in item 1.4D or something, I think, in the land development
In the-
agreement. It referenced 50% of up to 50%. Just so I wasn't sure if it's supposed to be that way or if it was just an oversight.
I'd like to guess that it's a mistake, and I think, Jim, because I had something to do with changing that, so that's why it rings a bell with me. Originally, I think it said 50%, and I suggested that we should have a higher standard than that.
Right.
And so we agreed as a committee to change it to 80, but perhaps it got changed in the one place and not in the others.
Yeah.
So that's my recollection.
Yeah, that's certainly, I certainly see the inconsistency. I assume, does the RFP itself address this?
You know, I think the other area that we have to look at is, again, is in the evaluation criteria. If you remember, we changed that number in the evaluation criteria as well. So whatever number we agree with, it should be the same throughout the.
Yeah,
document.
no, it's definitely should be consistent throughout. And I know that I did the ground lease at a different time than I did the land development agreement. So maybe maybe it was changed at some point in between or whatever, but I should have picked up on that. And we can certainly make it 80 in both if that's what that's what you'd like.
I think in the criteria, I think it was still, it had to be at least 50%.
Right.
But more desirable was 80%. I forget the language. But the lease and the development agreement, those are documents that are executed after the town designates the developer based on what they've submitted, right?
That is absolutely correct. And that's after a lot of other things have happened. And
so at that point, we know what they're offering and we're accepting, let's say 80%. So the document should reflect that rather than what's anything at this point. They could be blank at this point.
Yeah.
Just has to reflect what the eventual agreement is.
Those numbers could change between now and when there's basically a closing, so to speak, when the lease is signed, et cetera.
But if we're presenting this to the developer, in other words, we're trying to get this done so that it can see what this looks like, it's basically, we should leave blanks in places like that.
Unless it's a critical, unless it's important. And we've left the unit numbers blank, it looks like, of the 46 units or 46 or so units. We don't have numbers for the units, the number of units, but we do say 30, 50, and 120.
Right.
And the most important thing is, what does the RFP say?
Well, the RFP says what we'd like to have, but it also leaves a range. So so the town could agree to something that's different from either 50 or 80.
Yeah, that's fine then. But
so I think
still, we might
from
the document.
In terms of going out with the RFP, I think it's actually important that there be blanks in places like that, rather than the developer feeling that they are locked with something that is different from what they're going to propose.
Well, we could put blanks there too.
Yeah, it is addressed under affordability in the RFP, and there's a difference between the percentage of units and then the percentage of AMI. So I think we just have to take a close look at that. It may be talking about two separate things here.
Right.
Yeah, because RFP says at a minimum, there shall be at least 50% of the units affordable to households at or below 80% AMI. The town prefers 80% to be affordable to households below 80%, and that affordability will range between 30% AMI to 120% AMI. So one's the percentage of how many units and the other's the percentage of income, so.
Right. Correct.
Okay, all right. Could I, this is Elaine, could I ask a question on the LDA also, Katie?
Sure.
As you were talking about the select board approval, in the section it says approved plans and specifications. It still
What
says
section?
it's the LDA and it's section
14B.
1.4B.
1.4B?
Because it does still say that the town shall have approved the developers, excuse, I know these are naive questions, but the town shall have approved the developer's plans and specifications.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just, I mean, the evaluation committee will make recommendations to the select board and they will select the developer, but I don't know that we had any expectation that they would have to approve plans. I mean, I know later it says the approval will be the building inspector's permit. So I'm just still a little curious about the approval process outside of the ZBA.
Right, so we changed this pretty substantially, this section, as you can see.
Yep.
And we took out the back and forth between the select board and the developer in terms of, the select board, approving detailed plans and specifications. We did say the town, the select board ultimately does the award.
Right.
The award. So, and we changed it from, we took out the words in detail, the location, layout, and size of the units, the design of the buildings, and we changed it to showing conceptual plans of the units, the landscaping, and other improvements to be constructed on the premises, and substantially in conformity with the RFP and the proposal. So I think what we did was we moved away from the detailed review by the select board and, the select board having, the discretion to say, well, we don't like this building here. We don't like, whatever. So we, and I think implicit in this sentence is the fact that the select board has approved, basically awarded the proposal to the particular developer. So, we could tweak this a little bit, but I don't think I think we've moved, a long way from, from the issues that MHP pointed out.
Right. So in essence, the town awarding the RFP is their approval.
Right.
Under this.
Right. Because I was thinking that the proposal itself will have, some conceptual, drawings or plans or something of the potential project.
Great.
But, we could ask Laura about that.
Okay, that would be That'd be great. The great changes under the property management section. That was, really good. And yeah, I mean, you made a lot of really great changes to the concerns. There was one other one I wasn't quite sure about. Nope, I think that covers my very more specific questions.
So I guess my question, well, one question is we should think about timing, or you should think about timing, and we should think about, how best to bring Laura into the process, and then how that might affect timing, because I think we were looking at trying to get this into the Central Register a week from next Wednesday. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Like the 12th?
Yep.
So we want it to be, obviously, it has to be ready to hit the street on the 12th.
Well, I mean, if we could share the documents with Laura, I have the feeling it wouldn't take her long to just get back and see if there was.
Yep. Sure.
That would be great.
And if you think she, I don't know if you'd like, join us tomorrow, that's fine too.
Well, strangely enough, I just heard that she's going to be in Provincetown meeting with the Provincetown town manager tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But I think would be very open to a pretty quick turnaround. I don't know. She would need to have some time to look at it first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just a thought.
Yeah. But I think if we could have that done by Monday, maybe, or Tuesday morning, would that?
Have what done?
Just to have everybody's input finally and say, okay, we're ready to go.
By this Monday?
Well, no, Monday or Tuesday.
Of this week? Well, I'm not sure we'll be making, I mean, it all depends on, and again, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're the
Send
29th.
Laura the red line changes so she can review them over the weekend and see what or do you want to wait until we talk tomorrow?
I'd love to send them to her and give her a chance.
Yeah. What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, that's fine. And
Okay.
if we make some changes, we could accept these and then, show any additional changes in a later version.
Yeah.
Okay. I can send an email and copy everyone if that helps you, Elaine. Or unless you want to send them to Laura yourself and copy us. It's up however you want to do it.
Okay. I think if you felt you could do that, that would be great.
Okay. Will do.
Or I don't know. I'd be happy to do it also. I just want to make sure we do everything in the absolute proper way.
So can we just review, timetable. Tomorrow, we're going to meet at 3:00 to review any changes. I doubt we'll have any response from MHP by then, but hopefully get that within the next few days. So do we need another task force meeting, Elaine, to approve the final document, or would people feel comfortable with that?
I guess I'm hoping people might feel comfortable between KP and MHP and Rebecca and a couple of us to move it forward and report back, but not hold up for needs of a meeting. But I'm happy to do whatever people feel.
I'm all for expediency And I know in the past several months, getting Laura has been very difficult because she's so busy.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, whatever time she can throw this, as soon as she can throw it, you know, just go with it. You know, if she's in Provincetown tomorrow,
Mhm.
meeting with Alex Morse, and you can get her to Wellfleet for a Zoom meeting with Katie Klein, Rebecca Slick, yourself and Gary. I think you should go for it.
I second that.
Yeah,
But I second the idea that Elaine has proposed, that our committee can trust at this point
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
the finishing touches.
Agreed.
So is that enough info for your timeline thoughts, Gary? Or should we actually?
Yeah, so I think I hear you say, we don't need to come back as a committee and re-vote on yet another version of the RFP, that you're satisfied with the version that we currently have, and whatever changes need to be made, you can delegate that to a small group, including town council, Becky Slick, Elaine, myself, and Carl.
Then you've broken open meeting law, Gary. You have a quorum.
No,
If
there's only
if you include Carl, you're gonna have to post the meeting.
no, Elaine, there are only 3 members of our committee. Carl,
It's Kathleen. 3 people means a quorum,
We have 8 members.
right? And if you have 3, you've got a quorum.
Exclude me.
Am I wrong? Maybe.
What committees are they?
The task
I thought it
force,
was,
we're an 8-member committee.
Oh, so if we have 4, then you've got a quorum, right?
that's why I said 3, Kathleen. I don't think we're in.
Okay, 3 were okay.
Yeah.
4, you would have to post it.
Right, right.
And I'm learning from Katie Klein because she taught me the open meeting law. So
Yeah, well, Becky, if you would be willing to send that email, I think that's appropriate to Laura.
Okay,
And
I'll
copy.
do it when we get off this meeting, and I'll send her the Zoom link and ask her to attend. We'll go
Okay.
from there.
And so going forward, then we'll have a small group look at over any final changes and approve them. You know, if we feel like they're substantial in nature, maybe we will call another meeting. But the other thing that this all one item is when the due date for the RFP
exactly.
is.
We have to push
So
it out.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Katie.
I'm sorry, no, I interrupted you. We need to push that out. You're correct.
Yeah, right. So if we're actually able to issue it on the central registry by mid-May, that would, and we were talking about a return date of somewhere in the 8 to 10 week range, that would put us in the beginning of August, the end of July. So for the sake of, I don't know whether we'll be able to meet that, but if we can meet the May 12th registry date, are you satisfied with a due date of August 1st or before?
Might depend on what day of the week that is, just to make sure.
Yeah, sure. I'm throwing that out. That's
Actually a Sunday.
So,
so we should make it Monday the 2nd.
Gary, do you remember
10 weeks.
when,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just was wondering when the funding round at
Yeah.
TSPD is?
Carl, I raised the same question about whether we already are pushing up
Late.
against that, and I honestly don't know. And
Yeah.
and
I mean, I don't know what we can do about that.
right,
at this
because I
point.
don't know. Right, in order to get the best possible response, I'm not sure we can give them much less than that amount of time.
Right, exactly. I think, you know, we want to give the developers enough time to give us a good proposal. So, August 2nd sounds good to me.
And I think if it made a huge difference, I think 60 days might be sufficient. So, if you want to make it July 19th or something like that, but you can talk about that.
Okay,
That's what I was gonna say. You could do it as soon as July 19th. That's same thing I was gonna say.
Let's see if we can't round up all the components and get the MHP response. And if we can do it by July 19th, we'll certainly shoot for that, Carl. And if not,
Yeah,
I'd like to suggest something. I thought that you had to, the first 2 weeks that it's in the paper is not part of the timeline, that you have to give people after it's been advertised for a period of 2 weeks. You want to give them 2 months. I thought that was what Laura said. I think that
I think you're right, Janice. When it's in the central register, that's not part of the timeline.
no. So
I believe she said that to us.
yeah.
Well, it is. A lot of people do look at that, but from a practical standpoint, some people will find out about it in the newspaper.
right. I think Laura said that we can, you can either publish it in the paper as soon as the day after it's in the central register. And Laura has a list of 8 to 10 developers who expressed interest that once it was in the central register. But I agree, we want to make sure they have at least 60 days from whatever the proper beginning time is. So we'll pin that down.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This has been really, really helpful. And I know Becky is getting so many requests from everybody in town to for advice and to help move things along. And we're very fortunate that you're committed to this project for us. And thank you, Katie, for jumping into the meeting. At the
Oh,
last
no problem.
minute.
Sorry, I was
Yeah.
on a phone call.
It made a
Couldn't
big
figure out
difference to help us out today.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. So I'll talk to some of you tomorrow.
thank you again, Katie.
thank you.
Bye, Katie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Becky, is there anything else from your perspective that we need to consider?
No, I definitely thought the design standards, I was actually gonna ask one of you, if, if that was the plan all along, was to have those in there, but obviously you guys were toying with that early on of whether or not to have them in there. So a lot of my questions got answered.
I just think in the beginning, when it was advised to have such a thing, we didn't want to do the work.
Yeah.
But we did it. And so, yeah.
Jay, you're muted.
I always, in the beginning, I thought that we shouldn't have design standards because I thought it would kind of put a constraint on the creativity of what people might offer us. But then, we looked at a project in Eastham that none of us liked. And we thought maybe we should put something in. But I understand this whole concept of like what's control and what isn't. And we kind of have to be consistent on that.
From what we gathered with meeting with MHP and their lawyer, that there's a lot of other bid protests that are going to be coming to light, similar situations. So I feel like it almost would be on people's radar that, that this is going on. So we should play it safe for sure.
Great. I did have community engagement on the agenda. We have had some thoughts about, and I think Carl has left us. Jeff Sachs, who is I'm not sure he's an exact abutter to the property, but he lives in that neighborhood and he's very supportive of our project. And he was offering to have a gathering of that neighborhood this summer to hear from them and, you know, have us present some information and try to change or, you know, reach hearts and minds. It's a tricky situation, but we have some time to do that. I don't know if anybody has any take on that. We have had a couple of emails from abutters looking for information, and I sent them Carl's excellent, you know, handout. And that seems like about all we can do at the moment. We are still working with the Cape Cod Commission and CDP to put together a compelling brochure or information about the need. So that would be a piece that we could always share too with people. But we can discuss that at another meeting.
Becky, was there any dates set for town meeting at this
Yeah.
I
point?
think they said June 26th.
With rain dates of the 27th, 28th, and 29th.
Right, so I mean, we'll have to do some work around, if nothing else, the wastewater piece for that. Maybe we could, as part of a forum, do something about the project update. And by then we will have issued the RFP,
Right.
even though we can't talk about any responses.
Yeah, I was a little concerned. I don't know if the positioning on the warrants will change. And Kathleen, I'm glad to hear they moved up in numbers, but I think Lawrence Road was the last one of all the little separate pieces, which I'd like to see it moved up as the project that has so much already invested in it. Yeah. I guess I could.
Renumbered them a few times, so it might
Yeah,
not.
and it's probably going to change again, Elaine.
Yeah.
The warrant is not set in stone.
Right.
It's probably going to change again. I really question why they're making 8 separate articles. I think that's it's just a lot for the public to, you know,
Yeah.
take in. But the moderator could call those articles to be voted on as a block.
We shall see. Okay. Well, thank you all again for being here today. Thank you, Becky, very much for your support and your help. And
Elaine, will you let us know if Laura gives us the good housekeeping seal of approval?
of course.
Thank you.
Of course.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathleen. Goodbye, everyone. Stay
Hey.
well.
All right, bye.
Have a good weekend.
Adjourn.
Bye-bye.